Another particularly strong influence on Malaysia was the British colonial period, which had an enduring impact on the country. An excellent place to learn more about this era is upon the North Borneo Railway.
We're about to board the only steam train in the whole of existence in Malaysia. It was brought over in 1954 all the way from England, Lancaster, by the North Borneo Railway Company. The total rail track spans approximately 40 kilometres, so it should take quite a few hours, and hopefully we'll see some lovely sights along the way.
Journey back in time as you ride the North Borneo Railway line. Be transported back to the colonial era and experience a legacy of the British. The North Borneo Railway is one of the few fully functional wood-powered steam engines left in the whole wide world. The wood-powered furnace turns water to steam, an image which harkens back to the Industrial Revolution. Though the 5 carriages were constructed at a much later date, they have been redesigned to match the decor true to the steam era. The train can carry up to 80 passengers, and plenty of room is afforded to each for a relaxing journey. The carriages are open-aired with sliding glass windows true to the period. A voyage back in time indeed. In addition to the passenger carts, there is also a kitchen carriage. Adding to the ambience are the friendly staff who are dressed in colonial wear. They are there to serve and attend to your every need. Soon after you board, a light breakfast is served, comprising of assorted Danish pastries, croissants and fresh preserves, served with SABAH tea and coffee.
I've got my pastries and I've got my cup of tea here, SABAH tea. I'm just going to try some. That's a really, really good brew. It's a lovely cup of tea here. We're going to be stopping off at several locations. We'll be stopping off at some places here, and we've got a little passport here. As you see, we're definitely on a steam train. You can hear the choo-choo noise. Every place we'll be stopping at, we'll be getting a little stamp on our little passport. And it's really nice here. It's nice and cool. I can feel the fresh, cool breeze wafting through my air through the open windows. It's really, really pleasant, and definitely a British colonial experience.
You'll be treated to countryside views and villages reminiscent of the British era. The first stop is Kinnaird, where you will have 20 minutes to explore the town. Within walking distance is the Buddhist temple. The temple's oriental design is a stark contrast to the town's wooden colonial structures, which date back to the 1900s. The wooden houses are home to many stores, coffee shops, and open markets stocked with fresh, local produce. After Kinnaird, the train passes through Kawang Forest Reserve with expanses of mangrove jungle. The train goes on through seas of green lush vegetation which rustle in the wind. As well as through Pengalat Tunnel, which spans a distance of 450 metres. The tunnel was built in the 1900s by the British. The crossing of Papa River over the Steel Trestle Bridge signifies that you are almost at the final destination, which is the town of Papa, also known as the Rice Bowl of Sabah. Within walking distance of the train station lays the marketplace, which sells an ensemble of local fruits and vegetables, as well as many other items. Unlike modern trains, steam locomotive trains were not designed to run in reverse for protracted periods of time. They were designed to motor along in one direction only, forward. The train therefore needs to be turned through 180 degrees, so they face the direction from whence they came. The train moves upon the turntable and slowly but surely turns about face. The train then slowly backs up and then reconnects with the passenger carriages. Then it's ready to go. After exploring the town of Papa, it's time to board the train and head back home. But the British colonial experience is by no means over. Shortly after leaving, you are served a tiffin set lunch, comprising of several courses. chicken satay with biryani rice, followed by fried spice mackerel with cucumber and pineapple salad, preceded by mixed vegetables with prawns, culminating in a selection of fresh fruits served with coffee or tea. Each course is housed in its own metal layer, affording compact, efficient, fine dining in a limited space. The North Borneo Railway Line is truly a novel way to explore the surrounding countryside and outlying towns close to Kota Kinabalu. A great adventure into Malaysia's colonial past. Nearly everywhere you look and go, there in the distance stands Mount Kinabalu. It is approximately a 2-hour drive from the city of Kota Kinabalu, the capital of the state of Sabah. Mount Kinabalu resides in Kinabalu Park, famous for its rich biodiversity, containing many endemic species of plant and animal life. It is also recognised as a World Heritage Site. Drawing up to the car park beside Kinabalu Park headquarters, you are immediately struck with the impressive view of the Rocky Titan, a poignant reminder of the challenge which lies ahead. The challenge of the mountain attracts people from far and wide, drawing people from countries afar. Different nationalities gather at the base of the camp, preparing for the challenge that lies ahead, prepared with their water bottles, backpacks, and most importantly, food for energy for the journey. Before the journey starts, it's time to stretch and limber up, to be in prime condition, stretching off both the legs and the arms, as from the sight of it, the climb looks something that should be warmed up for.
Everybody, welcome to Kinabalu Park. Welcome to Tim Pohon Gate. We are here at this moment, so we will start our hiking from here. Okay.
We are aiming for Lowe's Peak, which is 4,095.2 metres above sea level. The total journey distance is 8.72 kilometres in length. Lowe's Peak is named after the British colonial administrator, Hugh Lowe, who was the first person to climb Mount Kinabalu's summit plateau in March 1851. Some climb the mountain in just one day, but others do the trip in 2. We shall be doing the journey in 3 days. The journey is broken down into multiple legs. The first part of the journey is a 6-kilometre hike to Pedant Hut, which is at the base camp and stands at an elevation of 3,270 metres. We will wait overnight to rest and acclimatise, then the next day head to the peak and back. On the last day, we'll traverse down the mountainside. Every group which goes up the mountain is accompanied by a mountain guide, and porters are available for those with heavier loads. To preserve the pristineness of the mountainside, there is a famous saying: take nothing but photographs, leave nothing but footprints.
The longest journey starts with the first step, and I felt like I've taken a hell of a lot of steps, and apparently I've only climbed 0.5 kilometres. Today we got to do 6 kilometres before the night descends, so I think we better get a move on. I'm already pretty tired, and the steps are pretty steep in places, so it's time to tread on and move on. Let's go. Lucky I've got my stick, isn't it? Sticks make it easier.
The first challenge is the first kilometre, with steps so steep you can almost kiss one's knees on the ascent. These steps are also known as the staircase to heaven, as they seemingly never end.
Yeah. Whew. I can feel my heart racing. Yeah, my pulse is definitely going through the roof there. Those steps are certainly not to be taken lightly.
The first part of the trail is highly accessible for people of all ages and abilities. In fact, there are no age restrictions as to who can climb Mount Kinabalu. The oldest recorded climber was over the age of 80 years old. As long as you're in good health and reasonably fit and armed with a persevering mindset, the climb is more than possible. The climbing elevation is steep, and in some places the number of steps seem to go on and on for as far as the eye can see. Shortly after the 1 kilometre mark, it's time for a well-earned rest. There are several resting stations along the way, many of which have toilets, and they are all undercover, the perfect place to rest, recuperate and re-energise. Some of the resting houses are also nearby homes to some of the mountain's more entertaining wildlife. Throughout the trail there are many little squirrels to be seen bounding around, playing in the undergrowth, and entertaining the visitors. Onwards and upwards we must travel. At this stage you really start to feel every step. The trail is really quite beautiful, with naturally formed staircases formed by the roots and the rocks of the mountain. Every passing sign tells you are getting closer and closer, but it seems to be taking longer and longer to get from one sign to the next. After more climbing, we finally reach Layang Layang Hut, where it's time to have lunch, take a nice break and prepare for the final push.
I feel really tired. I'm not sure which parts are aching, but probably all of them are aching. It's pretty knackering. And it's just started to rain, so hopefully the rain will stop. Anyway, it's going to make our journey a lot more difficult.
Layang Layang Hut is just after the 4 kilometre mark, so there is still quite a journey ahead. The challenge escalates from Layang Layang Hut. The terrain changes markedly from mountain trail to rocky steps. With the fatigue setting in from the past distances covered thus far, the journey becomes more difficult. Every step needs to be considered when the rain sets in, but the rain cools the air and freshens the atmosphere. The last kilometre is perhaps the hardest kilometre. As the altitude changes, so does the geology, weather and environment. With these changes, the plant life varies from mountain zone to mountain zone. The mountainside is home to an astounding variety of plant life. As the trees decrease in height, the skies open up above. The ground cover thickens and more ferns are to be seen. And the cooler climate is marked by the ever-increasing presence of mosses. Beyond Layang Layang Hut, the vegetation transitions from tropical forest to cloud forest. The climb is visually spectacular. A veil of clouds enshrouds the land, the misty tendrils wrapping around the stunted and gnarled trees, which are covered in dangling moss, lichens and liverworts. At this height, the mountainside is rich in wildlife and colourful flowers grace the mountainsides. The flowers are predominantly bell-shaped and bright enough to stand out from the grey cloaking mist. Eventually, the forest gives way to subalpine meadows. After climbing through the cloud forest and subalpine meadow, one emerges to be greeted by Laban Rata Rest House, standing proudly before a naked face of granite rock. The rest house stands at 3,270 metres above sea level, and there is a cold chill in the air. From Laban Rata there is but a few kilometres to the summit. Laban Rata Rest House provides a hearty warm meal and drink to tired climbers. The buffet is an international spread with everything ranging from salads to various noodles, through to rich wholesome curry. It's the perfect time for carbohydrate loading for the next day to maximise tomorrow's performance. Every piece of food served at the rest house has been carried all the way up the mountain by a porter. So with every bite taken, you really appreciate the time and the effort gone into every meal. The day ends on a high note. The view from Laban Rata Terrace is spectacular. The vibrant hues of red-tinted sky make for a magical experience. After the evening meal, we are briefed about the journey ahead. Since some of the journey involves climbing up ropes, walking sticks are not recommended. There is a variety of accommodation available, with several huts spread along the base camp, most with a heated dining area, showers and bathrooms. Staying overnight also helps with acclimatization. It's time for an early night's sleep, as we will be waking up early the next morning. in the hope of catching the sunrise from atop of Mount Kinabalu summit. With the alarm clock set to 2 AM, we wake up nice and early, eat breakfast and continue trekking up to the summit. It's dark and the temperature cold, with nothing but headlights to light our path. The base camp is 3,270 metres above sea level, and at this height there is only 68% of the oxygen available at sea level. With a significant reduction in oxygen, every step is physically more demanding. Breathing becomes harder and forever more willpower is needed. By the time you arrive at Low's Peak, the oxygen level drops by a further 6%, all the way down to 62% of the oxygen available at sea level. The journey is quite exhausting, and what's even worse is the more tired you get, the harder it is to concentrate. We survived the first 700 metres of audacious climbing, up some crazy rocks, and what's even worse now is I've just seen a massive rope and a really steep face. Fatigue is really setting in, but knowing there are only a few hundred metres left really gives some motivation to spur ahead and conquer the final hurdle. Bare granite cliff face, slabs of rock, only but a rope to guide our path through the darkness. Mists enshroud us, the air is cold enough to see one's breath. The temperature approaches freezing. The key is to keep on moving as to not get cold. The air thins, the effort increases, one's resolve is tested. The darkness slowly lifts, the summit is near, sunrise is approaching. It's time to dig deep, the summit is visible and the end is in sight. This is by far the steepest part of the journey. To get to the summit, one must scale the sides of the mountain quite literally. At the summit, we are met by a magical vista. We have climbed so high that we have even risen above the clouds themselves. And of course, it's the perfect place to take a selfie. Finally, we have reached the apex of the mountain, a staggering height of 4,095.2 metres above sea level. I can't believe we made it, a once-in-a-lifetime experience indeed. The clouds eventually clear to give an amazing view, the harsh, barren rock face overlooking SABAH down below. The summit plateau of Mount Kinabalu is a rugged terrain formed by granite rock shaped by a harsh, relentless environment. It's a perfect moment just to pause and take in the beauty of nature. The journey down is always a lot easier than the journey up. On the way up, the focus is on the climb and the challenge of reaching the apex of the mountain. Whereas on the way down, the focus is on taking in the beauty of the landscape. With the sight of day, even with the periodically enveloping clouds, one can really appreciate the majesty of the mountain terrain. The grey desolate landscape is almost devoid of flora and fauna. The harsh environment has split the rocks, forming large cracks running down the rock face. Mount Kinabalu is formed by subterranean granite, which is pushed through the sandstone and shell to rise to a height of over 4 kilometres. At the higher altitudes, the forces of nature over time have completely stripped away the sandstone and shell to reveal the grey granite underneath. Mount Kinabalu continues to rise year after year at a rate of around 5mm per year. There is more than one way down the mountain. Instead of going back down along the same original path, one can take a more daring path, the Via Ferrata. Via Ferrata is Italian for Iron Road. In short, the Via Ferrata comprises of a steel cable which is pinned at regular intervals to the rock face. Climbers can then attach themselves to the cable and use it to traverse the mountain. The Via Ferrata therefore affords an opportunity to experience the thrill of mountaineering in a safe and controlled manner. In addition to the cable, rungs, steps and hand grips are in place to help with the more difficult areas. Each group is guided by an experienced guide.
Keep the distance about 3 meters.
This vertical sport has provided a fun and new way to experience the mountain without the need for mountaineering experience. It's extremely safe, but mentally thrilling, especially if you're scared of heights. The Via Ferrata goes vertical and horizontal, with metal bars to aid the climb in the more difficult places. Compared to the journey up, physically this is trivial, but mentally I am not so sure. Towards the end there is a final obstacle, a wire bridge, more like a tightrope walk over a mountain gorge. Of all the things imaginable, what an adrenaline-pumping final leg. Soon after we complete the Via Ferrata, the rain starts to fall, which falls down the rock faces, and the trickles soon turn to gushing waterfalls. It's a powerful reminder how conditions can suddenly change, and that the mountain is never to be taken for granted. After all that excitement and effort, I know I will sleep well tonight. Morning has broken, it's time for breakfast.
It's pretty cold up there.
You can't beat a couple of pieces of toast and a nice hot cup of SABAH tea to warm you up. We emerge from the hut to bear witness to some beautiful views of the mountainside. The sun is out and it's like a beautiful spring day. The sun is above and the air crisp and cold. The descent down is certainly a lot easier than climbing up. Climbing up the peak, I felt like a sloth. Climbing down, I feel like a gazelle, bounding down the mountain with spring and vigour. On the way down, you really start to notice more things. We come across a porter bearing an unbelievable load, a washing machine weighing 47 kilos, perhaps the most epic display of portering seen along the entire journey. Porters come in all sexes and ages. They climb the mountain daily and make the climb look effortless as they scale the heights with large burdens upon their back. The porters can do the journey to base camp and back sometimes twice a day, teaching one a lesson in humility. I thought it would be interesting to see just how challenging lifting a load would be. One of the porters let me have a go. Bearing in mind this lady porter is perhaps over 50 years of age. The backpack is meant to be around 25 kilos. Imagine climbing 6 kilometers up to the base camp. After but a few steps, I'm already tired. How on earth does she climb the 6 kilometers? Heaven knows. In what seems like no time, we finally passed the waterfall and reached the wooden bridge, telling us that the journey is almost at a close. The journey up to base camp took around 6 hours, while the climb down only a few hours. If only there were an elevator up, then the journey would have been a lot easier. Mount Kinabalu is certainly not a mountain to be taken lightly. It's very easy to underestimate it. The steps are technically easy, the slopes nice and gentle. But boy, those steps go on and those slopes go on and on. However, the effort is well worth it. The views are spectacular, the experience is truly unforgettable, and certainly a once-in-a-lifetime experience.